Hey guys, what's up and welcome to a new Tesla update video. So today, as per usual, let's go over the market and let's go over Tesla and figure out what has happened and what we can expect moving into next week. Don't forget, Monday is a day off, and today I forgot to mention was quad witching day. Essentially just means a lot of volatility, a lot of options expiring. And yeah, so with all that being said, let's jump into it. If you enjoyed, don't forget to hit that like button. I am not a financial advisor and this is not financial advice. And of course, I have a membership section live where I can where I post my intraday thoughts on Tesla as it moves for $2.99 a month. The link is down below if you're interested in that as well. But moving right into it, it's like hair flying. I have a very hairy cat. It's a lot of hair sometimes flies around. Anyways, moving into it. So Tesla closing the day green, actually 1.8% in the green, putting us just shy over $260 per share, which isn't actually too bad. A little bit more strength than I expected, but nothing too completely crazy. And like I said the other day, right, and I've reiterated this many times, and I'll do it one more time in case people forgot or whatever reason. Again, as long as we're still above this teal line, as I said several times, Tesla's technically short-term is still bullish, right? It's only truly bearish, in my opinion, not only when it falls below this teal line, but especially if it falls below 250 once again. That's when it really starts to turn bearish, in my opinion. Up until then, in my opinion, Tesla is still technically bullish, right? So we did see that run up to about almost 264, right? Getting pretty damn close to that gap fill at 265. But like I said, I do think it will be prematurely filled. And again, that's so far what's happening. In my opinion, the gap hasn't actually been filled. We have to go a little bit higher for the gap to get filled. In fact, it's actually a little bit here, pretty much right around here. So we're pretty damn close. You can see pretty close. But in my opinion, still technically not filled it, but partially filled it. But whatever, regardless, I do think it'll be a premature fill nonetheless. And then, compared to the market, Tesla going 1.8% in the green is actually pretty good, right? Considering QQQ and SPY were down pretty much 0.6, 0.7%. So a pretty nice, respectable outperformance by Tesla, because again, I do think there was a lot of options expiring today. In fact, I had options expiring today as well. Could have been in the money. And, after Tesla doing such a phenomenal run up, of course, everyone that was buying calls and whatnot for this date, or were buying calls rather for this date, which means that of course a lot of them are expiring, and because probably a lot of them are expiring in the money, it gave Tesla a bit of that extra push, especially throughout the day, which gave us that push to almost 265 per share, because they're pretty much being bought, right? The shares, right? That's just kind of how it works. Might even get a little bit of extra push on Tuesday as more of them continue getting, essentially forced purchased in shares, once that call, of course, in the money gets converted, right? Or expires rather. It's converted into shares essentially, right? 100 shares per contract, right? Anyway, so that's kind of how that works. But nonetheless, again, for my honest opinion, right, Tesla it's definitely not a matter of if, it's just a matter of when it will break down from over here. Obviously, there's always a chance it still continues up again until it breaks this line. In my opinion, it is still bearish. But again, like I said, you look at the RSI rather on the 1 hour, it's not looking too bad. Obviously, that's not horrible, but it's definitely starting to show a little bit signs of the momentum slowing down. And usually when you have such euphoric rallies, right, again, not just Tesla, any stock, I could be talking about anything here, it just happens to be Tesla, right? Whenever the euphoria finally finishes and the momentum finishes after such this run was truly fantastic. Like, absolutely just, man, I would not want to be a bear short in this thing. I'll tell you that right now. That is painful, very painful. But, whenever you have these kind of extremely euphoric rallies and the momentum does slow down, or especially finishes and dies off, that's when you get, pretty substantial falls. Now, again, people, I think, misunderstood yesterday. I don't think Tesla's going to crash down to some crazy astronomical levels. I think it'll be a healthy cool off and a healthy retracement, like I said, somewhere around 220, right? To me, that's extremely healthy. Nothing wrong with that. And in my opinion, even if it does come down to about, what am I doing this? I'm meant to do this one. Even if it does come down to about 220, right? Only, 15%, it's not little, but after such a run, it's really not that much. You're only getting back like a third of the gains, really. But nonetheless, after such a run, it's very healthy to get a little bit of a cool off, a little bit of a retest, a reaccumulation, if you will, right? Because, as you get higher, more people are going to start selling, especially people that were bag holding. Now they're finally getting exits, right? They're finally being able to escape potentially the bag holding that they had, maybe, in the high 200s, maybe even close to 300s. Maybe they're cutting their loss. You never really know for sure, or they're just taking profits, right? And then naturally what you have, then, it's like a rinse and repeat. You have cycles, right? You have the bulls have their rally, gets to a certain point, the bulls start taking profits, and then bears, or even bulls turn bears or whatever, start entering shorts, right? Okay, now it's time to go back down. And then, once it gets down a certain amount, the vice versa happens. They take their profits. The bulls like, oh, this is a great dip. I want to start re-entering more heavily. And then that's essentially how the market moves, right? It's just simple price and demand, right? or a price, supply and demand, all that kind of stuff, right? So that's just basics, right? And again, after such a run up, you're going to get to that level much faster, and then you're going to get more aggressive, entries of potential bears entering to, look to make that next play, right? Because again, buying up here is risky, right? Obviously buying up here and entering a long position somewhere up here is obviously pretty, questionable, especially considering you had technically all this time over here, and especially down here to go ahead and do that. You know what I mean? Anyway, that's just kind of the overall, that's kind of a more psychological aspect. But I'm going to more technical analysis. Again, we have the Bollinger Band, right? The main thing I personally look at right now, mainly because we're over every single other moving average, but we'll still take a look at them quickly for another maybe reason to, see where we can retrace to. But like I said, you can see the Bollinger Band is starting to catch up to us. It's pretty much sitting at 219 right now, 218, 219. And I do think it's going to catch up to us. And I think we're going to come down to meet it again, somewhere around the 220s-ish, give or take, right? That's kind of what I am personally foreseeing right now. Like I said before, many times, it always reverts back to the mean, no matter if you're just hugging the red line or you're hugging the green line nonstop, right? Always reverts back to the mean. So keep that in mind, ladies and gentlemen, very important to understand that. Let's take a look at the other moving averages, right? You can see the 21 EMA pretty much following the Bollinger Band. You can see it's also sitting pretty much around $220. Again, probably at the very least come down to a retest that at some point, probably somewhat soon, right? I mean, QQQ is of course getting rejected at that 370 level I've been talking about for like pretty much the whole week now. Did go above it, bit of a bull trap, but are still getting rejected by that overall level. And a little bit of a questionable close on the QQQ here as well. And I do think it'll come down at the very least to 350 first, and then maybe overall we come down even a little bit lower. We'll see, of course, that's hard to say for sure, but my main price target will be 330 on QQQ, which again, if that happens, of course, naturally it will unfortunately bring Tesla down with it. And the RSI, of course, is still severely overbought, right? There's a lot of factors that, yes, technically Tesla can still go higher. As long as it's still above this trend line, absolutely, it can still go higher. But the risk versus reward naturally up here starts to really diminish, right? Just in my opinion, of course. Obviously, if you're buying for the long term, I don't know what the hell you're even watching this video for. But moving over to the 100-day moving average, well below us. I mean, it's technically not impossible to retest that. I don't think we'll do that just yet. I think we'll ultimately, again, this is what I personally think will happen. I think we'll come down somewhere around 220, and I actually think we'll go even higher to at least 280, if not maybe even closer to 300. That's kind of the move I personally foresee happening right here, right now, right? It looks a little bit more understandable, in my opinion, on the weekly. Right? If you look on the weekly right here, you can see, right? If we come back down to retest this breakout right around here, this also happens to be this kind of, overall resistance that we had over here now turns into support right in this area that we're currently at right now, right? Just naturally how it works. So resistance and support, when you go past one of the others, it turns into the opposite. So again, we came up to it here, got rejected several times on the weekly. Now that we finally broke out of it right over here, and we come back to it to retest it, it turns, of course, from a resistance into a support, right? That's just pretty much pretty basic TA stuff in my opinion. But again, that's kind of what I foresee happening, and it kind of looks like it makes a bit more sense on the weekly in my opinion. But nonetheless, a fantastic 5 weeks of just green candles, pretty nice green candles as well for Tesla, which is always great to see. And that's kind of the main thing I'll be personally looking at and I'll be paying attention to as well. We have the 200-day moving average well below us, but the more important ones in my opinion to look at is going to be like the 10-day moving average, right? You can see this is kind of following the blue line that I have, right? You can see right here, right? It's kind of just moving up with it pretty aggressively as well, right? Because this one is more of a short-term momentum, moving average, right? So once we cross below the blue line, I think that's when we come down to 250, may get a very small bounce from there, which will give this time to catch up to us. But once we also cross below the 10-day moving average, that's when, in my opinion, the short-term momentum for the bulls has probably, faded at least a certain amount to where I think that cool off period will actually finally begin, get a bit of a retrace, get the reaccumulation going. Again, I want to make it very clear before people start panicking, it's extremely normal, it's extremely healthy, and I think the bulls are still completely in control. It's just a short term, it's like we're giving the bears a little bit of an opportunity to at least touch the ball in soccer. You know what I mean? We're giving them a chance, play with the ball, give them 10 minutes with it, and then the bulls, I think, will get control right back, and then we bounce up even higher. But that's kind of what I personally foresee happening. Again, will it start next week? That's still the major question. I don't know the timing. That's always the most difficult thing to predict, in my opinion, timing as to when things will happen. But I do believe that it will happen very, very soon. It could be next week, could be the week after, could be early July, but I do think it's pretty damn close, right? Again, just watch this line, very, very important line. But again, until it's broken, technically short-term bullish. On top of that, the VIX is just still completely and utterly getting destroyed, which again is just absolute shocker to me. This is honestly kind of pathetic, really. So until this thing does find some life, I mean, the market's, even though if it retraces, like today we had the market down like 0.7%, VIX is still down like almost 7%, which is just really unusual to me. So I'm not really sure what's going on with that. Something very unusual is happening in this market that is very confusing. I'm not gonna lie. Something doesn't make sense here. Something does not add up. There feels like there's something that doesn't make sense here, but I guess we'll just kind of let it happen and we'll see where it takes us. But again, with QQQ potentially rejecting at this major level, I do think we'll get a retrace, which will bring Tesla down as well. Does it have to happen right away? Like I said, not necessarily, but I do think it will happen sometime sooner than later, in my opinion. But that's kind of the main things I'll be personally looking for, ladies and gentlemen. Overall, pretty nice candle on the weekly, nothing too bearish. I mean, the daily candle is not that bearish at all, right? You know, obviously a bit of a seller rejection still around this overall, you know, 260s-ish area. But again, the daily candle, as usual, not looking that bearish, right? This top signal clearly, once again, just, you know, it's crazy really, but once again getting pretty much thwarted. So that's, you know, interesting to see, right? That's the second time Tesla has taken what could have been a pretty nasty top signal and just like completely just, yeah, no, you know, showed the middle finger to it and just said, you can take that, you know, top signal of yours and you can throw it out the window essentially, right? So we'll see, of course, we'll see. That's why you never want to, that's why I almost never short Tesla, because this thing can just really do some crazy unusual stuff. And I'd rather just let it happen and let it play out, and I'll wait to buy the dip. You know what I mean? That's usually what I like to do instead for Tesla. But all in all, ladies and gentlemen, that's pretty much what I am seeing. So let me know what you think down below. Again, to reiterate very quickly, I do think that the risk versus reward is not very good here. Technically still short-term bullish until it breaks this line, but I personally wouldn't be buying up here. I have no issues waiting and being patient. I already made my quota for the month. I should double my quota for the month. So I'm chilling, not in a rush whatsoever. I'll let it do its thing. Once it finally does dip, which I think it will, I will personally be buying the dip. And I'll get ready for that next run up that I think is going to be happening as well. But all in all, thank you so much for watching, and I hope you guys have a great long weekend. Again, the market is closed on Monday, and I'll see you on Tuesday. So until then, peace.